Good afternoon, everybody. Joe Bergamini here, coming to you from the Sabian Education Network once again. Welcome, everybody, to our ongoing 2 p.m. roundtable and feature artist interview series that we have going. It's been going really well, and I have another longtime friend of SEN joining me today. Actually, someone I consider a personal friend who I really admire in the industry as not only a great drummer, but a speaker, an actor, an eminent author, not only of a wonderful educational book for kids, but also his Crash motivational book for everyone. He's also currently designed an online lesson course, which we're going to talk about, drumminginthemodernworld.com. And for those who might not know, sometimes when I'm talking to someone like Rich, who become friends with, I forget that he's played with Kelly Clarkson, Ludacris, Bryan Adams, Bob Seger, Joe Perry, Keith Urban, and has been touring all over the world, playing stadiums for years now and recording with Jason Aldean. So he's one of the top people in our industry, and he's a wonderful person and a longtime friend of Sabian and the Education Network, and I'm thrilled to have him today. Welcome, Mr. Rich Redmond.
What is up? Hey, everyone. I'm looking at all my friends in the comments already. What's up, Joe, man? You're such a great host. Thanks for having me.
Oh, man, thank you. And I know you know, as a speaker and as a host yourself, you do a lot of hosting and speaking. So it's always a pleasure. And I just want to say, we did the SEN event in Nashville, and you were, back when in the old world when we can do things.
That's right.
And you were great. And I just have to say, one of the things was, we kind of went long, and you came in at the end and just really were so concise. And I was just realizing how pro you are at speaking. You just took the time you had and you just brought it in. And
I appreciate it. We're like a battle of the hosts. Like, we can have a battle of the hosts. We can have a host off.
Of course. Welcome all you guys, all our friends. I see Bobby, I see Michael,
Love that, Bobby.
Guys and girls.
Yeah.
Welcome. Feel free to go ahead and type in your questions. We'll get to as many as we can. But so, Rich, let's start here. I've had you on before, so we've gone through some of the past and history. We'll get to some of that. But I think some things are creeping back. You're coming to us from Nashville, and you've been recording, right?
Yeah. I just turned the big 50 this year. Went out to Joshua Tree and played my LP Dharma drum and was one with the jackalopes and the rattlesnakes and the stars. It was amazing. And just kind of realized that I needed some eye surgery. And so what a better time in human history, just to otherwise we're just always going and we're traveling and we're in our business. So I was like, okay, I'm going to get this done. So I got my left eye done here in Nashville. I'm about to get my right eye done in Nashville. I haven't seen my parents since Christmas. So I'm going to drive to Florida and see them. And then before you know it, we're going to be buying each other Starbucks cards for Christmas. I mean, this is upon us already, man. But yeah, I'm in Music City, USA. I've been here. I've probably come 4 times from LA during COVID, and it's not for the faint of heart, but you have your wet wipes and your hand sanitizers and your masks, and you say your prayers and you go boldly into the night.
Right. Rich, I just have to show right off the top that Mr. Intelligence, he's got his eye on us. So
all right,
being supervised.
You got to keep it clean.
Yes, of course. And thanks to Andy and Sabian for giving us this wonderful platform to do this. So actually, I want to talk about the one thing you alluded to with the pandemic. And I want to get back to the recording. Is there anything, like you mentioned going out to Joshua Tree and maybe pulling back a little, is there anything that you've used the time to develop further in either your career or an interest or your playing?
Yeah. I mean, I tell a lot of people, this is when are you going to have this time to read all of the books on your bedside, your nightstand. So doing a lot of that. And it's also been a great time to not only be on a million other podcasts. There's so many drum music and motivation podcasts out there. So I've guested a lot on those. And then, of course, I have this Rich Redmond Show thing, which is on all platforms. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher. And we're already on coming up on episode 74, I believe, dropped today with my friend Jason Sutter, plays for Manson and Cher. Great guy. So enjoying the guests I've been getting there, and that keeps me kind of focused and interacting with people. Watching a lot of course, Netflix, Hulu, and Amazon Prime, because in the last 5 years I've been acting. So in Los Angeles, I take I've been studying acting, and so 3 or 4 hours a day, I'm on the computer interacting with people, rehearsing. So that's been really fun. And then I'm always working on new things for my speeches. Then I'll pick up the sticks and work on my, keep things fresh there. And I have an idea for a book I'm going to crank out. I should have done it already, but hopefully before the end of the year. Richie's Rockin' Rudiments. And, I'll probably get some fun little cute caricature of me on the front cover. And it'll be all these kind of rudimentally inspired warm-ups that I've been doing backstage for 25 years. And my whole concept on warming up backstage is usually things that involve unaccented notes and accented notes, and strengthening that difference in the relationship between the two of them, and throwing accents and rudimental patterns to either side of my body. So it's almost like a stick control type, where it's like, paradiddle, the paradiddle, paradiddle. Then you're on the other side of your body. So you're working it out from both sides of your body, and you're able to kind of like get closer at balancing the both sides.
Yeah. When you, with the warm up thing, I know with Jason, you're playing such big venues.
Yeah.
Do you spend, are you one of those guys who's like religious about warming up before every show?
No less than 30 minutes before the show. So the band gets together usually at about 8 o'clock, and we play anywhere from 9:15 to 9:25, usually 9:25. And then we're off stage at 11. So as soon as I get into that dressing room with the guys, I'll get the sticks in my hands, and I got my, my Pro Logic crash pad. It looks like a little New York deli cookie. It's like half red and half black. And it's, when I'm without the guys in my band, I can use the hard side. And when I'm with the guys in my band, they're like, come on, Redmond. And I'm on the soft side, right? Warming up. And it's just singles, doubles, paradiddles, diddles, flams. There's so many rudiments out there now, and hybrid rudiments. And I think I stopped at the 40 rudiments, and now there's like 90 something. And it's when you go over those first 40 is when you get too many chops, and then you start getting fired. So like, I don't necessarily want to know all the cheese diddles and tap fives and stuff, because it'll creep into my playing. And then it's like, get them out of here.
You mean you're not playing Shirley Murphy's on the Aldean gig? Come on.
I mean, the occasional pat of fla, but for the most part, if you have good control and balance between the limbs, dynamic control, you're getting a good tone on your instrument, and you, most importantly, have mastered full strokes and tap strokes. So strokes and taps, and that relationship, you're going to be just fine, with your rudimental development. Obviously, it takes a long time to get a really buttery, smooth machine gun double stroke roll. That'll take away your childhood. And I spent a lot of time on ducka ducka burr, ducka ducka burr. But once you get that, you're probably golden. That's the most chops you're going to need.
Yeah. It's funny. I a long time ago, Dom had me take a lesson from Willie Ornelas. Some great comments.
The American Standard 26.
Yes, that's right. When I took this lesson from Willie, he put some charts up, demos from artists. And I remember he said to me, and of course in those, at that time I was studying Billy Cobham, who was our guest last week actually, and really working on my chops. And Willie was like, you have all the chops you're going to need to work. Yeah. Now you need to work on the other things. And I think, when you talk about that accent to low level ghost note, that's something David Garibaldi has actually codified.
Yeah.
But I think that's a huge, I would guess that if you were going to retrace your path, and everyone always asks you, how did you make it in Nashville? How did you break in? But that fingerprint that you have of your personality, I guess, you probably feel it comes out in your playing from those technical things, even if you don't play all the rudiments or all the.
Right. It's good to address all the technical stuff when you're younger. Cause I don't know about you, but I started out on the Gladstone pad, and it wasn't a horrific thing. Like eating, it's like my friend Jason Sutter is like, you got to eat your vegetables before you have dessert. You can't just go right to dessert without all the vegetables. And I never complained about the vegetables. I had that Gladstone pad, and I loved drumming, and I wanted to get that under my fingertips. So speaking of Garibaldi, you know, if you take some of the exercises from his book, like ding, right? So Neil Peart put that on the bell of the ride cymbal in almost every Rush song. It became almost like a rhythmic signature. You would know because you transcribed so many of his drum. Ding, 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 right? That's just a sticking. But but you also want to have the ability to go ding, 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 and there's just the an of two and the e, the an of one and the e of two, which are very, very close to the hi hat, right? So you end up hearing like it's that little stuff in there that gives it the percolation and the essence and its true personality, right? So and the only way to get that together is just to practice on a practice pad, slow to fast, and be very methodical about it. You know?
But you think you have to get on the kit and work. Like, how much did you actually sit with that kind of stuff on the kit? Did it come naturally to you, or?
Well, yeah, when I was at Texas Tech University, I was studying with a great man, Alan Shin, and I was there for 4.5 years. And he modeled my degree program after the North Texas degree program from that Robert Chitroma and Ron Fink and Henry Oxtel and Ed Sof and all these wonderful teachers, you know, Mike Drake, all the guys that teach there at UNT, where it's like an emphasis in drum set, but hey, you're still responsible for timpani, vibes, 4 mallet marimba, potentially 6 mallet marimba. And we had these barriers we had to pass. So when I was with Alan, I was like, he just pushed me every day. I was like, I had my own practice room, like hermetically sealed. I had the key, and like they would be locking up the music building at midnight, and I'd be in there till like 2 or 3 in the morning working on my stuff. And the same thing when I got to North Texas, it was even more of these like-minded people like me, where the guy next to me was like a total Weckl guy, and then Karlock was next to me, and then Blair Cinta was next to me, and then Rob of Sherian was next to me, and all these cats, man, and they were working on their thing. And one guy sounded like Buddy Rich, and one guy sounded like Dennis Chambers, and we just championed each other and stole from each other. But yeah, there was a lot of time on the instrument, you know?
Yeah. And remind me, were you and Jason Sutter and Jim Riley and Keith all in school together?
I was in school with Keith, and Sutter had just left, or maybe a year or two earlier, and had gone to get his master's at the University of Miami. And Jim Riley had just finished, and he was kicking around Dallas and playing in all sorts of like local bands. And I will say the Dallas scene was so healthy. There were so many top 40 big band, Fusac, fusiony R&B bands to play with. It was like an incredible. So I had 2 lives. I was living in Denton, and I was trying to play bebop and big band by day and get my degree. And then at night I would drive that hour into Dallas, Texas, and be going to play the clubs 5 nights a week. So needless to say, there wasn't a lot of sleep. You know, I was a younger man, but it was a great time because I was eating this diet of all sorts of different styles. And then when I moved to Nashville, it was like a thing about like not unlearning those things, but learning discipline that most likely I'm not going to be able to play a Garibaldi hi-hat permutation on a country ballad, right? But that the toolbox, it's there. It was there. It was a means to an end. So if I need to whip that stuff out, I can. But what Nashville taught me was like, all right, kid, this is a song at 68 BPM, right? And so you got the click, and you're like, bop, bop. You're like, okay, can you double it for me? And you're like, bop, boom, bop, boom. All right, and you come in on the first chorus, got do dum boom. Cross stick, and the cross stick's got to be super clear, and everything's got to be balanced, and there's got to be that consistency, and the bass drum, boom, 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 right? And then, you know, so it's almost like taking all that stuff that I learned and just making it about the song, which is like most of the people in our industry that are celebrated because they have not 1 decade, but 2 decades, 3 decades, 4 decades of making hit records are, you know, your Eddie Bears, your Lonnie Wilsons, your Greg Morrows, your Paul Limes, your John Robinsons. These guys know how to play a song, right? So I really just studied that and dove into the deep end of the pool with that approach, you know?
That's amazing. That was a good Bruce Dickinson imitation, by the way. Is that what that was?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I make gold records.
I put on my pants just like anybody, except after I put on my pants, I make hit records.
Hey.
It's interesting that ethics of doing what's required for the gig. There's another side of it, which is, you see some artists, like maybe I became aware of you and you're playing on these big country hits, but then, and I would put Jim Riley into this category too, and certainly Sutter. Sutter plays the wrong brand of cymbals. I'd love to have him as a guest.
You never know. You never know.
We'll figure him out later. But my point was, then I see you play at a drum clinic or at a drum festival, and it's like, oh, Rich has all this other stuff. So the other stuff is still important. It's not like you can stop learning it. And I'm just impressed when you do bring it out. Like
I appreciate it. I need to bring it out more. I think I'm at a point in my career where, like, if COVID doesn't kill the baked potato, my goal for maybe next year or the year after is I want to do a cute little, like, Greg Bissonette style fusion-y record, which I call approachable fusion, where it's like girls can still clap on 2 and 4 or 3 and 7, and it's still somewhat danceable, and approachable. And so I have that on my bucket list, but I just kind of always worked on how you could take any pattern and change certain things in the pattern and maximize that in your toolbox. So if there's a beat of a song that's like, right? So you can play just, trash can quarter notes. You could play accented eighths, which gives it more of a forward motion where you're doing that stroke tap, stroke tap, stroke tap. You can put the accent on the up. Then you got your 16ths, and is it kind of like an Omar Akeem 16th where there's like a percolation to it, like with little inner accents, almost like a shaker? Or is it Larry Mullen, Van Halen? Is it all shank of the stick, right? And then I can play with no grace notes on the snare drum, so or I can play or all the little stuff that's in there, and then I would be methodical. Let's try the pattern with me opening on the and 1, or the hi-hats are all like barking away like 8 to the bar. And then you change your sound source and you go over to the ride cymbal. Is it the tip of the stick on the ride cymbal? Is it the shank of the stick on the ride cymbal? Is it the tip on the bell, the shank on the bell? And then I take my students through these variations and I go, now, anytime you can play this pattern, you can judge the room. You could read the room. Are you working for a Lilith Fair type chick singer, female singer where less is more and you need a spongy snare drum? Or can you break out that Yamaha Piccolo from 1996 that everybody had and just crack away on that thing with all the ghost notes? And, is your ride cymbal dry or does it have spread? And you know what I mean? And making those choices, but I've worked out all that other technical stuff ahead of time. So I'm going into these situations with a full bag of tricks. And then all I have to do is appropriately read the room. And if I'm not giving somebody what they want, I go, how about this? How about this? How about this? You never want to be in a situation where I've got one thing that I can do.
Right. Actually, that's exactly where I was going to go with that. So you've done so many recording sessions with big artists and big producers. Was there also a skill of and that was an amazing description of all these different subtleties you'd put into the groove. Like, is there another skill of, like, let's say that you're in there with a producer and the producer's like, yeah, Rich, that's cool, but I wanted a little more, energetic. Like, do you have to do like interpretation of like non-drumming comments from like a producer or an artist?
Yeah.
They don't know what they want. So like, how did you learn that?
So you're like energetic. Well, I'm already sweating through the shirt. I've been twirling my sticks and making faces at everybody. How much more energetic? So that might be me. That might just mean he wants the pitch of the snare drum up. That might mean he wants more fills. And so there's this bedside manner that you learn from dealing with a lot of different personalities. I'm lucky that I've been, we're about to record the 10th record for the same artists that I'm working with the same band, with the same producer, the same caterer, the same engineer, the same assistant engineer. And so we go in there and it's like we know how to get to high art pretty quickly because, in Nashville, we'll listen to like a demo recording, and that demo could be, back in the day, was just a dude strumming an acoustic guitar, and he would be like, think Mellencamp, think Springsteen, think Heartland Rock. Okay, so I'm cooked if I don't know those references, right? Yeah. And then also nowadays the demos are like polished, like compositions where there's a lot of actual like programming and elements that you can take a wave file of a tambourine and you could put it on the grid, and then I'm tracking to that. So in recent years, I have been playing more and more simple because now there's even more electronic percussion loop elements that have come into with the music that we're making in Nashville. So it's almost like, how can I bring this song to life, be energetic, do the right thing, please the artist, please the band, and stay out of the way, right? And that's what you do. You just kind of figure out how to read the room,
Great. Where's that comment from Chris? Chris Stanky says, highly doubt anyone's ever had to ask you for more energy. You're right, Chris. Sorry. I could have asked for a different adjective, but I got my point across.
Well, Ed Soph was the one that said, Rich, you never want to have somebody to ask you for more and you don't have more.
Right.
So when we were there and it was like sping, spang, a lang, it was like figuring out how we can do as many things against sping, spang, a lang as possible, and also playing incredibly slow ride cymbal things and working on subdivisions. And then, when you're a young man and you're listening to, Face the Sun. Was there? Do I need more lighting?
I think that was an energy reference. I'm sorry.
Gotcha. I was like, let me turn up my ring light. The sun is going away here in Nashville. We're getting to a part of a time of year in Nashville. It's my favorite time of year. When the leaves change colors, it's gorgeous. But then once you get into December, January, February, March, it's like London, and it's just gray and miserable. So, anyways, I digress. But you start with being able to play dense. And when I was listening to Electric Band and Mahavishnu and all that, it's very dense, note groupings, and then also being able to just literally be able to play the trash can beat from Freeze All Right Now, and like hold that down passionately with a smile on your face, not thinking to yourself, I can do so much more. This is stupid. Why am I playing in this band? You're playing in this band because it's a great band and you're going to get paid and you get to play rock hits. And you know what I mean? I'm just open to whatever that the people on the job want from me. If I'm playing a calypso gig by the diving board at a pool, I've got my Hawaiian shirt on and I am completely committed to playing soca, samba, and calypso. And all I need is a kick snare and a splash cymbal. And I'm happy.
You don't come across, we were talking before and you said, I can't wait to play a wedding. I mentioned I'm going to be doing
I can't wait to play a wedding.
And your reasoning for that.
The reason why wedding band drummers need to be celebrated and not looked down upon is because most wedding bands worth their salt are playing music from 1920 to yesterday. And you have to be able to have a generally good sounding drum set and play all those styles. Now, you mentioned you're in a band where the material is pretty much from 1970 to now, which is a dream. If you start to say like 64 with the Beatles and to now, so you're having to do Beatles, Motown, new wave, classic rock, probably some light dinner jazz, maybe some smooth jazz stuff. And then you're doing the Macarena. Before you know it, you're playing Iggy Azalea. And what you want to do is you want to make it so comfortable for everybody on that stage that you sound like the drummer on those tracks, right? And you're like, oh my God, this guy is playing appropriately for each style of music instead of imposing some sort of musical mantra or philosophy like, yeah, man, I'm a fusion drummer. My favorite period is like 68 to 78. And that's what I sound like on everything. You're not going to work very much unless you start your own band.
It's totally true. And even the stuff with the styles, like we were talking about all these, and I get the impression, and I feel this way too. You just love these different styles of music. Like when I'm on the gig and he calls Billie Jean, I freaking love it. Like
bop, bop, bop. There isn't, the only fill is bop, ba boom.
Right. But it's like, as long as I'm playing great music with other human beings and it feels good, that's the end game I'm looking for.
When we come back from this, I am going to appreciate more than ever being able to be on stage in front of an audience with some of my closest friends or like-minded people. I think we're going to appreciate it so much. I want to just pinch my bass player's butt right over there by the hi-hat and wink at my guitar player and look over at my steel guitar, and Jason's out there and there's like, oh, I can't wait.
Well, you're so lucky because not lucky. You're
right. I am. I'm very lucky.
Well, lucky, but have achieved this preparation and your hard work where we were talking about all these different things you have to do on the gig, but now you've reached that status where you've been with Jason, all these records, like the band is like, I imagine you guys must be like brothers, and they're like, at that point, you're like, they know what Rich Redmond brings to the gig. Like you're brought in because you're there because you can be you. You don't have to switch styles. That's just the other ultimate artist achievement. So congrats on that.
Well, thank you, man. It's surely a luxury. And I think Andy will tell you, he knows, like when I first started playing Sabian, I think in like 2001. And I think I became an artist in like 2003 or 2004. And it wasn't always easy in Nashville, especially the first 3 years. I was parking cars. I was waiting tables. I was substitute teaching. I was making copies. I was a courier. And I was like, oh my God, I have tens and thousands of hours of experience. I have my master's degree. No one cares. You know that. You live in a city that never sleeps. You gotta constantly, you're only as good as that last gig or the gig that you're on, And so it was rough. And when you try to move the needle forward and own your own personality and style on your instrument, you're going to get a lot of naysayers and haters. And you have to have very thick skin to deal with that stuff, because there's a lot of drummers that have very strong opinions that are playing in their basements. They'll never get out of their basements because they're not brave enough to say, I exist, and go out there and just play and play and play and keep showing up no matter what people say, and it's the whole industry is not for the faint of heart. It really isn't,
That's such great advice. I think and sometimes it's good for people to hear this advice repeatedly, because a place like New York City, a place like, even if you want to break into doing Broadway or you want to break into Nashville, like when you get a little disappointed because maybe you didn't kill that gig or maybe someone didn't appreciate your playing, like the scene doesn't really care if you're frustrated. Like you need to like make those adjustments.
Yeah.
Get back on the horse, and stay positive. And that can be hard to keep doing over and over. And
positivity is definitely, the key to, and it's easier said than done, but you definitely catch more flies, what they say, with what, honey than vinegar. That'll, but you know what, like, I'm a hustler. If I moved to New York City, the first thing I would do would be, I would go learn your book. I would learn Sammy Marandino's book. I would learn John Michelli's book. I would call everyone and be like, I know all the books. And like, I would just throw myself into the deep end of the pool and be like, I'm a Broadway drummer. You know what I mean? And also to pay the bills, I wouldn't be beyond me to drive around the tri-state area and playing wedding and corporate bands. I mean, I'm open to doing that, in Los Angeles. And I have done it. I mean, when we had the Ventura fires, I mean, the day after the fires ended, I was at the fire came all the way down to the courthouse. And like 200 feet away was an Italian restaurant. And there I am playing, pop music with an iPod in an Italian restaurant in the corner for $100 and some Italian food, because I like to play. And nothing ever bad comes from going and playing your instrument, doing a good job.
Yeah. I love how much you love to play music and play the drums. It's such an inspiration to hear. And I know for sure, like I had the pleasure of playing with my friend Greg Smith on Saturday. Greg's like that. He loves to friggin' play, man. And when we play, you just feel like, I know the people who play with you, they feel that coming from you. Like You're there because you love it, and it's just so inspiring. Like Jim Mola said, our buddy Jim, adjust or adjourn.
Right. All right. These are some great comments and a lot of I love that Bobby A, man. What a gentleman and a great teacher.
Bobby's the best. Bobby's really always, and Jim, both guys always with our SEN stuff. So thank you guys. You have been doing, you mentioned in passing, the recording you're doing. So are you doing home recording or are you in the studio with Jason or both?
Both, yeah. During COVID, I flew from LA to Nashville to do a record for American Idol artist. He's on Hollywood Records, Lane Hardy. So he has some music that has come out. It's a rough time for artists to put out new music because they can't support it with radio visits and playing for their fans, right? It's like all that stuff needs to happen together. But that was fun to do that. There's a new recording artist that's really good friends with Dave Grohl. The guy really gets around. He's a really hard worker. His name's Tim Montana. So I played on his record. And of course, all these records are being produced by Michael Knox, who I wouldn't have a career without Michael Knox because he championed me. And from record one with Jason Aldean said, this is your guy. I mean, just the guys in the band, Michael Knox, Jason himself, championing me. That's what you need in this industry, is to have someone believe in you, someone champion you and take you along for the ride. And I just modeled myself after the Liberties and the Kennys of the world. Kenny, 17 years with Mellencamp, 30 years For Liberty. And it's like, I need to find a guy like that. And so I was lucky because that was my goal. I said to myself, I am not going to stop until I find my Sting, find my Bono, find my Elton, find that guy, find my David Lee Roth. And thank God I found the guy, and we stuck it out, and we smelled like diesel fuel for the first 5 years. And we played Sunday matinees and sweated our brains out and ate sweaty cheese backstage. And thank God it all worked out. And yeah, also starting to record for the new Jason Aldean record. Also, the Flats are doing a duets record. So they selected a bunch of their friends that they wanted to do duets with. And I believe that the album is going to be all studio musicians, but thank God, Jason says, I got to have my band. So I went over to Jay Marcus's house and we redid a Rascal Flatts song, and that was really good. And then I have a studio called Crash Studio here in suburban Nashville, where I have 5 or 6 sets of drums from vintage to incredibly modern, all set up, tons of snare drums, tons of Sabian cymbals, percussion I've been collecting forever, and me and my longtime drum tech, John Hull. Anybody that knows me knows that I love and champion John Hull. We've been working together for 10 years. So he engineers, and we go in there, and sometimes I'll have 3 or 4 days and we'll knock out 20, 25 songs for different people. And I just make it a thing where it's like, instead of going like, hey, let's go track a song on Tuesday. I make it, I'm flying to Nashville. I say, John, we got to do 26 songs in 3 days. Are you up for it? Yeah, let's do it.
Mm-hmm. Are you the guy who got deep into the tech stuff and chose the preamps and the mics and all that stuff?
I'm not the deep in the tech guy, and I actually don't have a lot of expensive preamps. I'm probably going to do some upgrading and get that Apollo stuff, because people are like, the Apollo stuff's affordable and it models all this huge rack of things that you can spend 40 grand on. So most people that I work for are not like, what kind of pre's do you have? They want to know, like, they just are paying me for my personality, for my sweat, and for my performance. There's something that they like about my drumming, and they're like, I want to have you on my record. And then I try to exceed expectations. I try to give them exactly what they want. It could be 1 or 2 passes. Sometimes it's usually just one. I'll do a pass. I'll send them a rough MP3. They'll listen to it and go, I love everything you did. On the bridge, instead of riding the floor tom like Peter Criss, can you just go to the bell of your Sabian dry ride? I'm like, no problem. And so we just fix that. And then, of course, I'm overdubbing percussion, so they have that element as well. Sometimes we'll build loops, and I'll darken up the loop, make it kind of sound crunchy. Then I'll track to that. So we just have fun and are creative, but no one has ever said, what kind of gear do you have? Right. Because nowadays you can have a $600 drum set with some SM57s on every drum, send it. It's going to sound great. It's going to feel great. They can add samples if they want. They can add so many things. So we just send raw files.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I had Van Romain on, and we were talking about a couple other guys too. Some artists request the stems, and some people, like, I think it was Van who said, like, if at all possible, I like to send, a mix if I can. I know he's really deep into that that stuff.
I mean, Jim and John can do that for people, and I'm sure has done that for people. But I'm a people person, so the idea of being in a room by myself, 12 to 15 hours a day, doing all the file management and engineering myself is something that is probably never going to happen, because I have to have at least one other person in the room with me.
You know what I love about this? I love that I had the chance to talk to you and other people about it, and other people who are succeeding in the same space, like know thyself. Like you know, that's something you're like, okay, well, I'm going to have a pro help me with that part of it. Some other artists might say, I love that part, but so it's just really interesting. It's just,
I have friends that just love it. They're just studio rats, and they're just like, how many sounds can we get out of this one snare drum? You know, it's that's cool, but my life is moving so fast, and I have so many things going on. It's like, all right, let's do these 26 songs. And I would rather cut someone in that's a specialist in that area, and we're a team. And everything in my life really has been about teamwork. My relationship with my teachers, my relationship with my band, my relationship in the studio. It's a team effort, man, you know, and I thrive in those conditions. So
that's amazing. That's amazing. I want to talk about one more question about that. When you're recording and you have that situation where the artist asks you for something different, like, do you have a certain amount of, like, how do you handle like that? Like, do you have a limit of number of passes you'll do the next day, or how do you?
Oh, we try to do it all the same day. So I tell the artist, please be available to be contacted by Skype, FaceTime, text, or phone call, like smoke signals. However, just be around your computer so you can listen to the rough MP3. So they listen to the rough MP3 and they have to tell me right then and there what they want different. And we're so efficient, John and I, is like when we send the MP3 and it's when they're listening to that rough MP3, he and I are already going towards the next track, and I'm charting the song, or I make a rough pass. And so it's like, we can do 10 songs a day, you know, usually for the kind of songs that I'm called for, which is, you know, a lot of singer-songwritery, pop, country, rock type things. It's not like I'm not playing the same type of stuff that Thomas Lang is getting called for. I just had Thomas on my podcast, and he's like, that's what I do all day. Is a lot of times I'll play these. I mean, people that want that thing are going to go for his thing, and I'm not really getting called for that. So
yeah, I think what's cool about that, what you just said, is the artist, the client, that feels like a real recording session to them. It's real time feedback. Like, hey man, I just played this. Oh, check it out, play that. And then you're like, that's actually, I mean, and that's what you do. That's the interaction.
They can feel the sweat and passion on that stuff. You know, I tell people all the time that, you know, recording technology now is Pro Tools, whatever. It's all ones and zeros. It's like the Matrix, right? But there's something about passion and conviction that makes it to tape. You can tell when someone is fully invested. And the more that I learn about hosting and speaking and authoring and acting, all these things are like so close. There's like a thin membrane separating all of the arts. I see commonalities between actors and comedians and authors and speakers and musicians of all type. They're all creative expressions, right? And there's so many commonalities between those things.
I think I was actually going to bring that up, because teaching and speaking and interviewing, it's like, I've been enjoying listening to you and all my different guests. And it's like teaching. Like, when you teach, you need to listen first to see what the person needs. And then you're getting called in. I remember I was on a gig somewhere, I think Denver, and you were in a speaking engagement with a big corporation.
Yeah.
We saw on Facebook, hey man, are you in town?
Yeah.
And I guess when you go into a big company with executives, or maybe the team of a company, you sort of, I guess maybe your drum teaching skills that you developed earlier help you in that side of your career listening to what their challenges are.
Sure. Yeah. You want to always provide value and exceed expectations. So if I have to do a speech for somebody, I'll get with the highest ranking person I can from the company, and I'm learning about their culture. I'm learning about the products they're working on. What are the goals for that quarter? Any kind of interesting buzzwords or things that I can incorporate into the speech so it becomes customized. and special for that person. Just like you're drumming, you don't want to just go around playing, rock exercise 1B for every artist that you have, and I've distilled some of my teaching to the most basic things, because I have met so many drummers that can play left foot clave, solo against left foot clave, have extreme double bass, can play blast beats, and they literally cannot play boom, whack, boom, boom, whack, and keep it consistent with the same energy and dynamics between the limbs for 30 seconds. And then when they go to the ride cymbal, I say, well, what's going on with the left foot? It's just a dead fish. It's just sitting there. You could be playing on 2 and 4. You could be playing quarter notes. You could be playing upbeats. You can play half note. You could splash on 1 and 3. You could splash on 2 and 4. You could do the Steve Smith heel toe splash. I say, let's work out those things. And so a lot of my teaching concepts are very basic. It's like the money beats. It's like 5 beats, because are you guaranteed a career in drumming? When you learn those 5 beats? No, but it's a great starting point, because you're going to be expected to do that time and time again, more than playing partito alto, or that's, I love all that stuff. Gang, gang, go, ding, go, ding, do, gag. You got to have it in your bag of tricks. But if you can't play boom, whack, boom, boom, whack, you're going to play that way more often.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great advice. I can't tell you how many times everything you said has been proven true to me from subbing on Broadway shows in New York. Like, that everything is being solid at the right tempo with the right feel for the music. If you're not achieving that, that's all the other people care about. They don't care about any drum clinic stuff, right? I mean,
and that conductor wants to know that you're following him, and in certain situations, like when I used to play with Pam Tillis, we would do like pop symphony dates. And it's like, sometimes you're up there with a conductor, right? And he's got this really crazy ictus, you can't really, he's super ahead or he's super behind. There's all these strings, right? So you have a responsibility to pull it all together, but at the same time, you have the most responsibility to the people that you've been playing with when you're not doing symphony dates, right? So you're kind of like looking at the conductor and making him think that you're completely following him, but really you're driving the bus. So like drumming is a fine line between following and leading at the same time. And it's something that will not happen overnight. It's something that happens from being yelled at over and over. You're not following me, drummer. You're rushing, you're dragging. My tempo, not quite my tempo. It's like whiplash. You got to go through those experiences in life. Too loud, too soft. You're rushing, you're dragging. I hate that ride cymbal. I want it to be more spreadier next time. The thing sounds like an ice bell. Get rid of it. You know what I mean? So you go through these things. And it makes you better. It makes you seasoned.
No doubt. No doubt. You just you couldn't have described that dynamic better. And, sometimes in drum lessons, and I know you're doing a ton of teaching as well. And I find this more with my adult students and the ones who are really serious. What do you say to that student who's worked really hard, and they practiced and they've worked hard, and now they're in the lesson, and Rich Redmond, the world famous drummer and coach, is watching them, and I'm sure you hear this. They're nervous and they're stumbling a little, and they're like, "Man, I shed this and I was doing it so well at home, and I'm just." How do you coach that?
Sure. Well, it's funny. I would make someone nervous. That's insane. But just the idea that I let everybody know that over preparation is the key to everything. So the teachers that I had, if I went into a lesson with Ed Soph and I wasn't prepared, I heard about it. And he was like, go practice. You know what I mean? But it was hard. I was splitting when I was there, I was in academia and I was in the real world. I wanted to apply these academic concepts to the real world. I wanted to play gigs where I got the wink from the band leader and from the chick singer to know, like, you know what I mean? Or you also get this, you get the, time, you get the, what are you doing? And you just got to work through those things. But I tell everybody that over preparation is the key to success in life, not only the music business, but like everything. And I just interviewed these 2 amazing character actors on my podcast. These episodes are going to be coming out. And I'm like, how do you attack chunks of dialogue when you get a new chunk of dialogue this long and it's 12:15, you're on your lunch break and you're shooting at 1:00? And they're like, well, that's a whole other thing. There might be some cue cards, and then I use these brain techniques. But if you've got a script and you know what you're doing, and you've had 2 months to develop it, you cannot show up on that set and forget your lines. Right. And so the thing that I always did, even for auditions, when I was coming to Nashville in 1997, I auditioned for Trisha Yearwood, Barbara Mandrell, and Dina Carter. And these are like, it's like an upcoming starlet, a brand new starlet, and then an iconic individual that plays all sorts of instruments and dances and is like a Vegas show person, right? So each gig had different personalities, but what I did is, instead of just learning the 5 songs that I had to learn for each artist, I learned their body of work. So you're learning the tone of the gig, and you learn about the drummers and the musicians that played on those songs. And then I took the time to transcribe everything. And the ability to transcribe things, even if you're not going to end up reading the chart, is going to help you get everything stylistically in your brain, and it'll help you memorize it. I do the same thing. I played a cop on this television show on the Sci-Fi Network, and I had to do a scene with this amazing actor, Emmy Award-winning actor, Christopher Maloney. And the night before, I stayed up all night, and I just kept writing my lines over and over and over. And that repetition is like the key to everything, right? And I think any great musician will tell you that practice. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, 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 and practicing smart, practicing methodically. If you only have 1 hour a day to practice, don't play all the stuff you know how to play. You got to work on the things you can't play. And then every day you will get better, right? So I will just tell that student, you need to practice more. You need to be more focused in your practice, and you need to be over-prepared. So when you're over-prepared in real life is when you can cultivate success, because people are relying on you. And when you come to a job, even if it's that wedding gig and they told you to learn 3 songs and you're going to run them really quick at sound check before the bride gets there, better have those songs down.
Yeah. That's what I'll be doing on Saturday. So thanks
right.
That's great. Just a couple of quick, great comments. I just want to acknowledge Ross.
Oh, there's Jules. Yeah, man. Ross.
Ross says, under promise, over deliver. Ross is always watching. Great drummer and teacher from out in the Midwest. Thanks, Ross. And
Amoroso, hey.
Yes. And then a previous guest, Jules Rodino, watching. Thanks, Jules, for joining us.
Love Jules.
Another friend of mine I met at PASIC, Jeremy. I think Jeremy's I want to say Mississippi. I don't remember. Jeremy can correct me in the comments if I'm wrong. But people I met at PASIC, it's been great having all you guys here. Rich, just this information, everyone's loving it. What Sabian cymbals are finding their way onto the stands in your studio this month for the sessions you're doing?
Well, in my studio, I hardly ever let them leave my studio, but I have some artisans and like some giant crash cymbals, which are so great because like some of the feedback I get from other drummers is like, man, that Redmond really overplays his cymbals, right? Because when you're live and you're in an arena, like these are all the Hollywood muscles, right? You're way up here. It's for the showman. It's for the guy in the cheap seats, right? But when I actually get to 6 inches in front of the cymbal, it's a very light glancing blow. I come off the instrument opens up, right? So people are like, how many cymbals do you crack per year? And I think the guys at the factory will tell you, not a lot. Sometimes it happens just because we're playing so much, but it's not how I'm playing. So that molar technique is very, very, but these artisans that I have, they're like butter, and you could just, and they just open up and they're gorgeous, right? Ride cymbals, I'm always a sucker for the Evolution ride, a 21. I think they made me a 21 one time. I think it might be offered as a 21 or 22 right now. That's a great all-over ride cymbal. Of course, I love the AAX explosions. Everything is big. I try to never go below a 19. So usually 220s. And those are beautiful. They're dark in character. They're very musical, but they're still confident, and they can cut through walls of amps, right? And I'm a person I actually think that you can keep the same cymbals in the studio as you can live, because it's all about that touch and the balance between the limbs. I've started, like everyone, to love 16-inch hi-hats. And so like on tour, I'll have 2 sets of 16-inch hi-hats going. In the studio, sometimes I don't usually ever use 14s. The smallest I go is 15s, like 15-inch AAs or regulars or rock hats, And then for a specialty cymbal in the studio, it's always usually some sort of like an ozone, because it's like if a china and a crash cymbal had a romantic relationship and had that cymbal, it's like its own beautiful thing. And it's not quite a china, because there's a lot of people that don't like chinas in the recording studio. I know that the Red Hot Chili Peppers can get away with it. I know Phil Collins can get away with it, but most mortal human beings can't get away with chinas in the recording studio. So I do that live. And of course the holy china, I know we had Stanky on, and you got it right there. It's one of the greatest sounding cymbals on that. You guys knocked it out of the ballpark, because, you don't want your china to be like a dragon, like,
yeah.
It's like whap. It's just like white energy, and it goes away. So if you're playing like in an outfield cover band or something, perfect. It's a great cymbal.
The Paragon does that well too.
Yeah.
The Paragon set for, when you got the Paragon, you could get that short, end of subdivisions.
And the ride is amazing. Yeah. The bell on that ride is unbelievable. And I know Mark and I think it was 2 or 3 years ago, it was really sweet. He did most of the work, but we made a ride cymbal, because I think everyone's always looking for the perfect ride cymbal. It's like, can I have an insane bell, insane articulation for big band, but still have a shoulder crash and spread that if I want to crash on it? And so we made a couple of prototypes together, and we were flirting with the idea of maybe going to mass market with it. I don't know. That could still happen. But it's
maybe people who are listening might know that, but I don't. Here's a question from Drew. Have you checked out the HH Complex yet? I got a few.
You know what? I haven't gotten the complexes yet. I maybe a little at would it have been last NAMM? Would they have been out?
Well, there's these ones that I have are new size, like the HH. They were redone. So I've 17, 18, and 19 that were new, and I guess right after in the spring they were like.
Drew's a great drummer. Drew's a great friend of mine. Lives in the Bay Area, and every time in the Bay Area, I rent his drum set from him, for like speeches and stuff. So he's a great guy. He's come to a lot of my drum camps. Great kid. But no, I'll have to try him. And you see what good of an endorser I am? It's like, I'm not always just like, hey, can I get 10 of the new things? You know what I mean? I'm like, it's all my Sabian cymbals sound amazing. And it's about the touch, right? It's about the touch and picking the right one for the occasion. But even if it's the wrong one for the occasion, say I have to go play those 20 AAX explosions at a wedding, you can use smaller sticks, you can use brushes, you can use rods, you can lighten your touch. And that happens a lot. Like we were doing a record release kind of party. I think it was either late last year or earlier this year. And it was a small club. It was like Margaritaville here in Nashville. And my front of house guy said, Rich, small room. Is there any way you can play a little bit lighter on the cymbals? And I could have just puffed my chest and be like, no way, man. This is my gig. I've been here 20 years. You just say, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you do it because it's for the benefit of the band and the artist and the audience and the recording, right? So that's part of reading the room and not having one of those egos that's like Kilroy. Like you got to be able to be flexible.
That's great. Andy just chimed in and corrected.
NAMM 2020. But did I go this year? Did I go? This year is a wash.
Yeah, I think.
Was I there?
I wasn't there. I actually was on the road.
I can't remember, man. 2020 is like what?
Some great comments. Just everybody has their favorites. The hand hammered dry ride. I don't know if you David.
I have it. Yeah, I got a little collection of ride cymbals. I even have like an old. Carmine's not with you guys anymore, is he?
Yeah.
Is he? Okay, because there was like a Carmine signature ride, and I begged and borrowed to get one of those, and I think it was like limited. But that's got a lot of point and power. And everything you guys do, it turns to gold, man. It's beautiful.
Yeah, Carmine was my guest actually just pre-pandemic. And he wanted to come back. I have to have Carmine back on. He's always so much fun. Let's talk about, oh my gosh, we're almost to an hour. I knew this was going to happen.
What the heck?
You're the best. Let's talk about your online
My girlfriend's doing crunches over here, and she's smiling at me, and it's really cute.
How'd she make out with the rollerblading thing?
My girlfriend is bringing back rollerblading. So if you think it's gone away, think again.
Nice. Guys, I love how everyone's typing in your favorite model now that we started talking. This is like a trend. I think we should do this from now on.
13-inch groove hats. I love the groove hats. I played them on Good Morning America. Of course, they were the 15s.
I'm loving it.
Yeah.
Okay, before we run out of time, let us talk about drumming in the modern world. Let's talk about your what are the
I think most of the people on this thread right now know all about drumming in the modern world. Okay. But drumming in the modern world is just the idea came from our good friend Vic Salazar, who's kind of like the backbone of the Chicago music scene. If you want to know what kind of tom-tom Neil Peart played on the 1982 tour, he knows. I think you would know too. But anyways, yeah, right. He's like, Rich, you're 45 years old. You have a lot to say in this industry. So let's do your DVD. And like DVDs were dying at the time. So this thing has gone through a bunch of iterations, but you can just go to richredmond.com, REDMOND, or you can go to drumminginthemodernworld.com. And of course I had to pick an overly, what would be the word? Dramatic title, Drumming in the Modern World, right? But it's a lot of things you would need to know to try to make a career in drumming, whether it be New York, Los Angeles, or Nashville. Of course, there's a Nashville slant. I recorded it in Nashville studio. I deconstruct the Aldean drum parts. I perform 10 other songs in a variety of styles. There's lessons, insights, tidbits, 40 drum solos. If you want to have your student transcribe a drum solo, they can watch the drum solo, they can transcribe it. So it's just fun, and it's there forever. So it's $99 for a lifetime of streaming on any device. And
cool.
So, yeah, I'm pretty proud of it.
One time, you pay one time and you have permanent access?
Forever.
Nice.
Yeah.
And what about for those people who might want a one-on-one session with you? Is that something you
one-on-one is easy. You guys can find me. I'm pretty easy to find. All the socials is just my name. And I teach on 2 platforms because they were started by friends of mine. One is Meethook, and it's MEET. .com, and you could create a Meethook account, and we can set up a time, and it's just like this. It's a cool platform. It's interactive. A lot of the teaching I do is not really on the drum set because so many people just want to know how to do a cheat chart or get a gig or keep a gig. Should I move to Nashville? When should I move to Nashville? How much money should I save? More like career type stuff. And then also I teach on a platform called lessonsquad.com. And both of these platforms were created by like dear friends of mine. So I try to give them both love and teach on both those platforms. But the best way to even let me know that you want a lesson is just to send me an email at booking@richredmond.com. So you want to book me? Boom. And then you can also probably every page on the website is like, hire Rich. And so all you have to do is click on that and we can connect. And I like to just give people what they want. You know, that hour that we have together is precious. And if I have any advice for people, that hour goes by very, very fast. So write down your questions.
Right. Absolutely. And so people can come in and they can do all this consultation on in pretty much any area they want, right? Career or...
Yeah, of course. Sure. Until we get to the point where the microphone on a Mac picking up a drum set actually works, it's very hard. I do it, but I'll ask somebody to play Money Beat number 2 and it sounds like, you know, so I have to kind of watch them and go, well, it looks good. Your grip looks good. Posture is good. Seat height is good. The balance of the limbs looks good. It sounds like you slowed down there a little. So I'm more of a coach, you know, it's almost like I'm a coach or a consultant, you know. It's really hard to replace in-person lessons. It really is.
You need to go send the people back to, you know, we probably have at least a dozen streams where me and Dom and Jim Toscano did this exact topic, like all of us getting set up with the interfaces and everything. And it's
nice to have the interface for us, but most times the student will not have that. So still faced with that. But I actually owe Toscano a call because he's like, I'll let you know exactly what to do to set up, you know, like, all right, we're going to do it. We're doing it.
He's become the guy. But yeah. Totally right. And, you know, especially if you're teaching younger students, it's hard. They don't always have the setup. But
yeah,
I have one last question for you. I actually don't think I've ever
Can we
asked
go over an hour or no?
you. Can we go a little more? I don't want
I mean, don't stop for me.
Oh, okay. Then
Yeah,
let's go a little more. This is like sort of like the generic question, but we've never talked about it in a lot of detail. Like, who were like your 4 favorite drummers?
Oh, okay. It started with probably started with Stuart Copeland, and then Alex Van Halen, and then I discovered Kenny, and then after Kenny, I went back and did some research and discovered Gene Krupa, right? And so then he was like the ultimate showman, right? And then as I started digging deeper, you of course have the Mount Rushmore of drummers, and you have Bonzo, and you have Ringo, and you have Keith Moon, and you have Charlie Watts, right? And then you start doing your research and you learn about the guys that influenced them. And then before you know it, you're getting into, all these cats, and you're discovering Hal Blaine, and you're discovering, so I'm a student of the instrument. And I love what every different drummer can bring to the table. So I tell my students, hey, you want to learn to play a ballad beautifully? Then you better listen to Nigel Olsson. You want to learn how to be a fantastic recording and arena drummer? Then for sure, that's my rollerblading girlfriend. Then you better check out Kenny Aronoff, right? And then if you want to learn how to play that thing that that Steve Jordan does, well, it came from Charlie Watts, right? And then Max Roach and Buddy Rich squaring off, right? So you get that record and you can see that. And then the Gene Krupa thing, being a showman, and then Ringo spreading the butter on the hi-hats. Like, I stole from all of these guys. So it's really hard to say who are my favorite drummers of all time. My favorite drummers are guys that are musical, that play for the song. Then I started discovering studio drummers like your Jeff Porcaros and your John Robinsons. But also a big inspiration, it was Greg Bissonette, because he went to the college that I went to, and he proved that he could play with a Brazilian artist, Tanya Marie. He proved that he could play with the Maynard Ferguson Big Band. He proved that he can play on a Santana record. He proved that he could be the drummer of choice for Ringo. He played on the soundtrack to Friends. He can go out and do Satriani. He could do double bass with David Lee Roth. And that's the kind of drummer I wanted to be. And
there's absolutely nothing that he can't do.
That's what I aspired to. And I have a lot of those tricks in my bag. But because I came to Nashville 24 years ago, I don't get to do all those things. But I get to play the heck out of some really well-written songs. They call Nashville the songwriting capital of the world. So if you're cranking out hits in London or Stockholm or New York or Los Angeles, you're still at some point going to find yourself in Nashville, because it's all about the 3 chords and the truth. And as a drummer, it is never going to be about you. It's always going to be about helping bring someone else's vision to life,
No doubt. When I just a couple times I've never lived in Nashville, but just had traveling through, the people, we had hired some local players, and I was told that there's a lot of the symphony and film scoring stuff is being done down there now as well. Right?
Oh, really? Well, man. Well, the Nashville Symphony is fantastic. And of course, they're on a little hiatus right now. We're going to try to figure out how we can get out of this situation. But there's tons of recordings going on in Nashville. They're just, everyone's all masked up, and, it's, soccer moms want to hear their songs, and they've got to be recorded, and so someone's got to go do it. So
the first few guys you mentioned, though, I just want to give you rapid fire for if someone, let's pretend someone never heard Stuart Copeland, first 2 tracks to listen to.
Let's see, Canary in a Coal Mine and Murder by Numbers.
Ooh, good pick.
Yeah.
The deceiving 12/8 with the off.
Yeah, and it's a hard one, because you really won't know where one is until a little bit in.
Wow, those are cool. Man, I'm gonna go back and listen to those too. Okay.
Everything he touched turned to gold. I mean, the incorporation of the splash cymbals and the crotales and the octobans, and then the toms that were tuned up like a jazz drummer, and this cracking snare, and the way he played his ride cymbal, he was like a swashbuckler. And that's actually an exercise. Like, I'll teach kids, I'll say, look, you want to sound like Stuart Copeland? All right, pick one money beat. So say they pick boom, whack, boom, whack. And then I go, okay, take the Ted Reed book, page 38, right? So they're working on their reading, but I'm like, okay, you want to sound like Stuart Copeland? Here's a practical way to actually get closer to incorporating that thing into your bag of tricks.
That's great. Look at this guy.
Jim Riley. Everybody go check out Jim Riley's drum solo on the Modern Drummer Festival. You pay the $25 price and you could go watch the whole thing for like, what, a year or something? I don't know. So I did that. So I got to watch my buddy Jim play. I got to watch Thomas Lang play. I got to watch Dom play. I got to watch all the guys. It's a great thing. It was awesome.
And Jim, I'd like to have you back on. Jim was a guest, and I want to have you back on. So watch your inbox for.
Of course, Jim Riley was right when I'm air drumming and singing. Exactly. If you can sing it, you could play it. That's what I teach all my students. Like
that's a great idea, actually. I mean, I always thought like the ride cymbal on synchronicity too is like impossible for another human being to duplicate. It's just the accents but that would get
you can play the rhythm, but then you can adjust your stick position on the cymbal, right?
Yep. And then give me 2 tracks from Alex Van Halen. Same thing.
Oh, I'll Wait and Where Have All the Good Times Gone?
Good picks, man. You go in, man. You go deep.
Well, we celebrate the catalog, we really do. But I mean, Alex Van Halen is, we don't get to see him in the wild because he's a rock star and he's so private, right? But just the sound of that snare drum and the muscularity of his playing, was just something to strive for.
And I mean, it really is like I've been listening. One of my favorite tracks is Right Now, and just the way the beat turns around. Like Eddie and Alex are just so monstrous. People forget how monstrous they were.
That was the Crystal Pepsi era. Remember, Crystal Pepsi was around for like 6 months. Oh God! All the young guys are like, "What? This guy's what?"
I'm glad we went a little long because I did not bring up. Everyone should read Crash.
Oh yeah,
we had the digital version. You can get it digitally.
I would appreciate it, guys. It's like 10 years too late. But because I was like doing motivational speaking for like over a decade, and usually those people have a book, right? And it's so great now for me to go speak to at a Belmont or a Vandy or a Musicians Institute and be able to say, go pick this up, or when I go speak to 300 dentists and they all go home with a copy of the book is always very nice.
That's it. Something tells me the dentists might party harder than the drummers.
Maybe.
And by the way, Jeremy's chiming in again. I got it right too. He does live in Mississippi. At Belmont was wonderful. That's where Jeremy was there hanging. And we will get back out with SEN when times change again and do it. I look forward to coming back to Nashville. Jim's teaching at Belmont now, so you guys.
Isn't that great? I know. It's just.
I'll lock you guys both down. And then also you have your book for beginners. Fundamentals
of Drumming, and I couldn't find like a street copy, but this was like a review copy because it probably went through like 12 or 13 edits. So if you just look for that, it's a Modern Drummer publication, and Hal Leonard distributes it. And the picture on the cover is that dude. We're playing red drums. I like the bold colors, man, but I'm not a guy that's going to play purple drums or yellow drums. That's too bold. But I like the red and black family.
Yeah. Nice. Any closing advice for, our drummers who are looking for, some direction on what to do with their playing while they can?
Yeah. Well, it's an honor to be here. It's always great to talk with you. It's an honor to play Sabian cymbals. And I cherish my relationship with you guys. And Sabian Cymbals has always believed in me as a touring drummer, a recording drummer, and an educator. And I think in this modern era where you can't do one thing, where you have to be a jack of all trades, master of all, I think to give yourself the greatest fighting chance of making a living in the music business, you should write a book. You should publish in magazines. You should belong to the Percussive Arts Society. You should have a home teaching setup, a home recording setup. You should go after traditional recording studios if your town has them, where you go to a studio, and you should look to maybe do some regional touring or national touring. And it's completely possible to keep all three balls in the air, and like guys like you're doing it successfully, and I love the fact that Jim Riley is teaching at Belmont University, because I want a college. If I was going to college, I want a college teacher who is steeped in academia and has the paper, but also has been out in the real world doing it, right? So yeah, I would just say do it all, man. Do it all. Try to learn as many styles as possible. Work on your reading, because even just doing the recording sessions that Jim and I do, you have to write out a chart. And the more you can write out, I'll do recording sessions, and it'll say, like, in parentheses, lick, right? So there's like a lick that the whole band's playing, but I'll write out the exact rhythm, dot, 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 right? And I'll write it out, and that gives me a fighting chance to get that first take in the studio. And if you're a drummer, like Gad, I heard stories about Gad where he won't get behind the drums until he has fully absorbed the song, the chart makes sense, and then boom, he puts it on the stand, and there's the take for Asia, right? So the more information you could get ahead of time to being a recording drummer, the better chance you have of getting that first take. And the more often you do that, especially in a city like Nashville, where it's like time is money, and they're just ready for the guitar player to do 4 layers of passes, and they want your drums done, right? Yeah. So all this stuff, styles, reading, playing with a click, having a broad approach to your career, staying humble, staying approachable, staying teachable, having good gear like Sabian Cymbals, and then just have a smile on your face, a firm handshake, show up on time, and be sure to keep in touch with people and create your tribe of like-minded individuals. I'm still working with people that I met 30, 35 years ago.
That's great. Well, Rich, it's always such a pleasure to hang with you, man.
Pleasure's mine.
And thank you for sharing all your wisdom with us. And it won't be the last time, because I love when I'll pull you into do stuff with SEN, because it's always so much fun for me, and it's also informative for everybody. So just thanks for doing this for us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And everybody can just keep in touch with me at the website, and I try to answer every question.
Great. Well, we'll be back, as you guys know, we'll be back 2 o'clock. Don will be on next week with his guest, and I'll be back Friday at 2 to continue this wonderful series. A lot to learn from this one. You guys out there on Facebook and YouTube, and girls, go back and watch it again. I know I will, to get all the information out of this, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Rich. Thanks, Sabian. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.